The galaxy had always believed it understood the limits of power and how far its vast civilizations could stretch. But then came the humans who shattered every assumption and left the stars whispering their name. Their arrival was not heralded by grand declarations or flashes of brilliance. It was quiet and unnoticed at first. Even the advanced sensors of the Korath, the most powerful empire known in the galaxy, missed them at first. A fleet of enormous ships glided silently past the outer perimeter of the Korath defenses like shadows on the horizon, unseen and impossible to track. The first ships to catch sight of the humans were sentient mining drones from a nearby asteroid field that monitored the deep space expanse on the fringe of the Korath system. But by the time they noticed anything, it was already too late. The human warships had passed them and moved deeper into the heart of the empire itself. The Korath were not a race to be taken lightly. Their imperial fleets commanded entire sectors of space. Their technology had been unmatched for centuries. Their enemies feared them as they had conquered worlds across the galaxy with unrelenting speed and precision. But when the humans arrived, the Korath found themselves unprepared. The first sight of the humans was a simple thing, a series of massive ships dwarfing any vessel the Korath had ever seen, not in sheer size alone, but in their sleek design, their silent approach, and the faint hum that came from them, something both otherworldly and foreign that made the air tense. It was the Korath's mistake to assume that the humans were a smaller race looking to form an alliance, seeking trade or perhaps refuge on the edge of the empire. What followed next would change everything. A fleet of warships powered by engines unlike any the galaxy had encountered moved into range of the Korath's outer defense stations, and in an instant those defense stations were powerless, as if a single thought had disabled them one by one. Without a single shot fired, the Korath commanders were taken by surprise, not understanding how their most sophisticated technology could fail so suddenly. The human ships made no effort to communicate their presence in the usual fashion. The usual protocol of introductions or formal statements did not come. Instead, they hovered and waited while the Korath scrambled to respond with overwhelming force, hoping to intimidate the unknown ships. But it wasn't the display of firepower that sent the Korath into a panic. It was the unspoken tension, the realization that the humans didn't need to speak, they didn't need to announce themselves, they simply were, and their mere existence was enough to make even the mightiest empire falter. As the Korath prepared their counterattack, with full force, hoping that their battle-hardened fleets could push the humans back, they made a fatal assumption. They thought their ships were superior. They thought their weapons could cut down anything in their path. But the human warships were unlike anything they had ever seen. In their arrogance, the Korath commanders failed to realize that the humans were not here to negotiate. They were not here to seek refuge or make alliances. They had only one goal. They were here to show the galaxy that they had come, and that they were far more powerful than anyone could have imagined. The first battle was quick, brutal, and decisive as the human ships effortlessly repelled the Korath's assault and left the galaxy to wonder what this meant for the future of the stars. The battle between the humans and the Korath was over almost as soon as it began, leaving the galaxy in a state of shock. Word of the encounter spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the known universe. The Korath, the fiercest empire in the galaxy, had been humbled in a single engagement, and the truth was undeniable. Humanity's warships were something different, something more powerful than anyone could have imagined. What followed was not just a ripple of fear. It was a tidal wave that swept through every civilization, leaving them to reconsider their place in the grand cosmic order. The Vesh, a peaceful and diplomatic species, were the first to express their concern. They had always believed in negotiation, in maintaining balance through dialogue and compromise. But now, they faced the unsettling reality that the galaxy was no longer as safe as it once seemed. Their fleets, once seen as a symbol of protection, were no match for the human warships. The Vesh leaders convened in their high councils, debating what course of action to take. Should they try to form an alliance with humanity? Should they send ambassadors to greet these newcomers? Or should they take the safer route, retreating further into their territories to avoid drawing attention? Meanwhile, the T'Kree, a warlike species with a brutal reputation, saw the rise of the human warships as a direct threat to their dominance. For centuries, they had lived in the shadows of other empires, striking when it suited them and retreating into isolation when necessary. But now, with the appearance of humanity, the Tukri found themselves at a crossroads. Were the humans allies or enemies? Should they strengthen their own fleets to ensure they remained the most powerful force in the galaxy, or should they try to negotiate before things escalated? Among the smaller factions, fear began to spread like a virus. Civilizations that had never known the taste of war now found themselves caught in the middle of a galactic power struggle. Some leaders began stockpiling weapons, preparing for the worst, while others desperately sought out any information they could find about the human warships. What kind of technology did they possess? How were their ships able to disable the most advanced defenses with such ease? What was humanity's true goal in the galaxy? No one knew the answers, and that only fueled the uncertainty. The Korath, reeling from their defeat, attempted to recover their pride by issuing a formal challenge to humanity. They had underestimated the humans once, but they would not make the same mistake again. Their fleets began to rebuild, and whispers spread through their ranks about the need for a final, decisive strike against the humans. But there was a problem. The Korath did not know how to approach humanity, not after the demonstration of raw power they had witnessed. They could not fathom why the humans hadn't immediately taken advantage of their victory. The humans had shown restraint, but that restraint only added to the mystery. Why hadn't they destroyed the Korath completely? What was their purpose? In the midst of this confusion, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting, bringing together representatives from across the galaxy. Tensions were high, and the stakes had never been greater. The galaxy was no longer a place of easy alliances and diplomatic agreements. It had become a volatile powder keg, and humanity's presence had lit the fuse. The council debated for hours, with some calling for action against the humans, while others urged caution, warning that any move against them could lead to disaster. The question on everyone's mind was the same. What would humanity do next? The Galactic Council, an assembly of the most influential and powerful species in the galaxy, convened in an emergency session. It was unlike any meeting the galaxy had seen before. The usual calm and controlled atmosphere was replaced with a sense of urgency, fear, and confusion. Leaders from dozens of species, ranging from the peaceful Vesh to the warlike Tukri, sat together in the massive council hall, struggling to agree on what to do about humanity's sudden appearance and their overwhelming display of power. The question on everyone's mind was simple but terrifying. How should they deal with the humans? The Vesh were the first to speak, as they often were in matters of diplomacy. They called for a cautious approach, advocating for further communication with humanity. They urged that a formal delegation be sent to meet with the humans, to establish a dialogue and determine their true intentions. "We cannot afford to act out of fear," said the Vesh High Ambassador, his voice steady but laced with concern. "Humanity has shown restraint, and it is that restraint that should guide our response. We must offer them the chance for peace." But the Tukri were not so convinced. Their fleet commanders had seen firsthand what the human warships could do, and they were not interested in diplomacy. They saw the humans as a threat, one that could potentially disrupt the carefully balanced power structures of the galaxy. The Tukri general, a battle-hardened leader named Krath, stood tall and slammed his fist against the table, causing a momentary silence. "Peace with them," he growled. "These humans have proven they are not like us. Their power is unmatched. We must act before they strike first. They will never stop until they have all the power for themselves. We must prepare for war." Krath's words echoed throughout the hall, and a murmur of agreement rippled through several of the more militaristic factions present. The fear of the unknown had taken hold of them, and the idea of taking a proactive stance against humanity seemed more appealing than risking a potential conflict down the road. They feared that if they waited too long, the humans would become a force so powerful that it would be impossible to stop them. Meanwhile, the peaceful races were growing increasingly nervous. They had always relied on the stability provided by the Galactic Council to maintain a delicate balance. The sudden appearance of humanity, with their silent power and mysterious intentions, disrupted everything. The humans had already proven they could obliterate entire fleets with ease, yet they had done so without attempting to conquer or enslave. This left many leaders in a state of uncertainty. What did humanity want? And could they be trusted? While the debate continued, a smaller faction, the Jari, spoke up. The Jari had always been neutral in galactic conflicts, observing from the sidelines. Their leader, a wise and elderly figure named Calvar, addressed the council with a calm that stood in stark contrast to the tension in the room. "Perhaps it is not humanity that we should fear," he said. "Perhaps it is our own response that will define our future. We can choose to see them as enemies, or we can choose to learn from them. There is much we do not understand, but we must not act rashly. We must be patient and look for the truth in their actions." The room fell silent, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though the council might come to a consensus. But the fear and mistrust that had been building since the humans' arrival couldn't be ignored. The debate continued, louder and more desperate with each passing hour. Some argued for immediate action, others for diplomacy. But the truth was clear. No one truly knew what the humans wanted, and no one could predict what they would do next. As the meeting drew to a close, it was clear that the galaxy was at a crossroads. The future of interstellar relations hung in the balance. Humanity's next move would either bring the galaxy together or tear it apart, and no one could say for certain which path they would choose. As the Galactic Council's meeting stretched on with no clear resolution, humanity watched from afar, waiting in silence. The leaders of the human fleet had made no attempt to intervene in the debate, no response to the growing fear and suspicion. They knew the galaxy needed time to process what had happened, to understand the nature of the threat they now faced. Humanity had never been a species to act hastily, and they had no intention of forcing their will on the galaxy. But silence didn't mean weakness. It simply meant that humanity had a different approach. It was not long before the human ambassador, a figure known as Commander Evelyn Drake, addressed the galaxy. Her voice came through every communication channel, broadcasted across hundreds of planets and stations, reaching the farthest corners of the galaxy. The calmness in her tone was almost disarming, as if she held no ill will toward those who now feared them. But there was an undeniable authority in her words, a quiet strength that matched the power of the warships she commanded. "We are not here to conquer," Commander Drake began. "We are not here to force anyone into submission. We have come to explore, to protect our people, and to establish a presence among the stars. We are not interested in war. But we will not stand by if we are threatened." Her message was clear. Humanity was not interested in starting conflicts, but they would not shy away from defending themselves if pushed. They had shown restraint in the aftermath of their first encounter with the Korath, sparing them when they could have easily crushed their enemies. Now, they were offering peace, a chance to coexist peacefully with the galaxy's other civilizations. They were extending a hand, though it was clear that the human warships were still very much a symbol of immense power. The broadcast continued with an offer of diplomacy. Commander Drake invited representatives from the Galactic Council to send ambassadors to Earth, to meet with human leaders face to face and discuss a potential alliance based on mutual respect and cooperation. She acknowledged that the galaxy had been thrown into uncertainty by humanity's sudden arrival, but assured them that humanity was not an enemy. They had no desire to dominate or enslave others. They simply wanted to understand the stars and protect their people as they ventured deeper into space. "We offer you a chance to see for yourselves who we are and what we stand for," she said, her voice softening. "We believe in progress, in knowledge, in the sharing of ideas. The human warships are a part of who we are, but they are not the sum of us. We can choose a path of peace if you are willing to join us." Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some species, like the Vesh, saw this as a genuine offer for peace, a step toward a new era of interstellar relations. Others, like the Tikri, viewed it with skepticism. To them, humanity's silence in the face of their own aggression seemed like a ploy, a way to lull their enemies into a false sense of security. The Korath, too, were unsure. They had been defeated, but their pride wouldn't allow them to accept humanity's invitation without suspicion. The message, however, had an undeniable effect. For the first time since humanity's arrival, there was a collective pause across the galaxy. For a moment, all the factions and species that had feared humanity considered the possibility that this might not be the beginning of a galactic war. Perhaps, just perhaps, the humans were different, and they were offering the galaxy a chance to redefine the future. But there was still a lingering question. Would the galaxy trust them? Could humanity's power ever be fully understood? And would the peace they sought ever be achieved? In the wake of Commander Drake's broadcast, the galaxy held its breath. The offer of peace was made, yet the response remained uncertain. Diplomatic channels were opened, and various species sent their representatives to Earth in a mix of hope and suspicion. Some were eager to explore the possibility of alliance, while others came with more guarded hearts, watching the humans carefully, as if waiting for some hint of betrayal. But while the diplomats exchanged pleasantries, something far more subtle was taking place in the shadows of the galaxy. As the human ambassadors met with the representatives of the Galactic Council, something strange began to occur. Entire fleets vanished without a trace. At first, it was difficult to tell if these disappearances were the result of accidents or deliberate actions. A convoy of Vesh trade ships, traveling through a neutral sector, simply went silent. Their advanced communication systems ceased to function, and when rescue ships arrived, they found nothing but the remnants of their cargo. There were no signs of attack, no debris, no survivors, just empty space where the fleet had been. It wasn't just the Vesh. Other factions began reporting similar incidents. A Tikri warship, one of the largest in their fleet, disappeared while en route to a remote system. A Jari research vessel vanished while exploring an uncharted nebula. The reports were always the same. The ships had not been destroyed in combat. They hadn't been captured or sabotaged. They were simply gone. Fear spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Were these disappearances linked to humanity? The thought seemed impossible, but as more fleets vanished, the connection became undeniable. There were no signs of human ships near the scenes, no indication that they had engaged in any kind of aggressive action. But in the days following these disappearances, one thing became clearer: the humans didn't need to strike directly. They didn't need to fire a single shot. Their presence, their power, was more subtle than anyone had anticipated. Whispers began to circulate. Could the human warships be somehow sabotaging these fleets from afar? Was their technology so advanced, so far beyond anything the galaxy had seen, that they could disable enemy ships without a single act of aggression? The possibility was terrifying. No one knew exactly how it was being done, but the idea that the humans could incapacitate entire fleets without being detected was too much to ignore. A few council members, skeptical of the reports, demanded that a full investigation be launched into the disappearances. But others, more fearful of humanity's potential power, began to take precautions. The Tikri, previously the most outspoken opponents of peace with humanity, began to fortify their borders, deploying new weapon systems and increasing patrols in their outer territories. The Vesh, always the cautious ones, moved to bolster their defenses, ensuring that their fleets were prepared for any potential threat. Despite the growing tension, humanity remained silent. Their ambassadors continued to meet with representatives of the Galactic Council, maintaining the same calm and diplomatic demeanor they had shown from the start. They didn't acknowledge the disappearances, didn't attempt to explain them away. In fact, they did little more than reinforce their commitment to peace and cooperation, never once hinting at the possibility that their technology might be the cause of the galaxy's unrest. The galaxy was caught in a strange and unsettling limbo. No one knew what to believe. Were the humans really as peaceful as they claimed, Or was their true nature one of quiet, unimaginable power? And if humanity was capable of such feats, did they even want peace, or were they simply biding their time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? As the galaxy continued to struggle with these questions, the tension only grew. Humanity's warships remained an ever-present shadow, looming in the background, their full capabilities still a mystery. The galaxy's unease grew by the day, with factions huddled behind fortified borders, preparing for the worst. Humanity's silence was more unsettling than any show of force. Their calmness only amplified the fear of the unknown. Each species, from the powerful Kree to the cautious Vesh, began to question their understanding of the humans' true intentions. The offer of peace had been extended, yet no one knew how to interpret it. Was it genuine, or was there an underlying plan that no one could see? Behind closed doors, a new wave of leaders emerged from the shadows. A clandestine coalition formed among the most influential factions, united by one goal: to learn the truth about humanity. The Jari, despite their neutral stance, were the first to act. Their surveillance network, one of the most advanced in the galaxy, began to monitor human activity with unparalleled precision. They tracked the movement of human warships, searching for any hint of hidden agendas. The Vesh, too, employed their most skilled diplomats, hoping to uncover the humans' true motives by engaging them in secret talks, away from the prying eyes of the Council. The Kree, unwilling to wait for answers, began to prepare their military for an inevitable confrontation. They believed that humanity's power, hidden beneath the surface of diplomacy, was a time bomb. In their minds, the only way to survive was to strike first, to prevent a catastrophe before it could begin. They called upon their allies to increase their defensive measures, even proposing a preemptive strike against human outposts. Despite the growing tension, Commander Evelyn Drake continued to lead the human delegation with unwavering composure. The humans had extended the olive branch, but the galaxy seemed unwilling to reach for it. They were caught in a spiral of fear and suspicion, unable to accept the possibility that the humans might genuinely seek peace. Amid the mounting pressure, an unexpected discovery came to light. The Jari surveillance network had picked up an anomaly, something that hadn't been detected before. An encrypted signal, faint but unmistakable, emanated from the edge of known space. The signal was not one of human origin, nor was it from any known galactic species. It was an old transmission, one that had been long thought to be lost to the annals of history. The signal, once decrypted, revealed chilling information. It was a message sent from a forgotten outpost, a message that warned of an ancient race, long since vanished from the galaxy. This race, according to the transmission, had been the creators of the technology humanity now wielded. The implications were staggering. The technology humanity possessed, the power to disable fleets and disrupt entire systems, was not of their making. The human warships were not merely powerful, they were built upon the knowledge of an ancient civilization, a race that had disappeared long before any current species had risen to prominence. The message spoke of this lost race's downfall, their attempts to master their technology leading to their own destruction. The final words of the transmission were simple: beware the gift of the stars. The Jari, upon uncovering this revelation, immediately shared their findings with the Galactic Council, sending shockwaves through the assembly. The galaxy was now faced with a terrifying reality. Humanity had inherited a power they could barely comprehend, a power that had once destroyed an entire civilization. Was humanity truly the next step in the evolution of this technology, or were they unknowingly walking in the footsteps of a race that had fallen because of their own hubris? As this truth came to light, the galaxy was left to wrestle with a new, unsettling question. Could the humans be trusted with the knowledge they had inherited, or was this knowledge a curse waiting to be unleashed? The revelation sent tremors through the galaxy, shaking the foundation of everything that had been considered true about humanity. The knowledge that their warships, their vast technological might, were not of their own making changed the calculus for every species involved. Humanity was no longer just a powerful newcomer. They were the inheritors of an ancient legacy, one that had brought about the downfall of an entire civilization. The warning, "Beware the gift of the stars," echoed in the minds of every leader in the Galactic Council, sending a cold chill through their spines. The Jari's discovery raised more questions than it answered. If humanity's technology had been built on the ruins of an ancient, vanished race, what else lay hidden beneath the surface? What other secrets, forgotten by time, could humanity uncover? And most importantly, could they be trusted with the power they now possessed? It was a question that haunted every species in the galaxy, but no one had the answer. The Galactic Council was in turmoil. Factions that had once advocated for diplomacy now found themselves doubting the sincerity of humanity's peaceful intentions. Some suggested that humanity might be unaware of the true dangers of their inherited technology, while others feared that humanity could be unknowingly heading down the same path as the lost civilization. The Vesh, who had once been the strongest proponents of peace, found themselves reconsidering their stance. Even the Tukri, once eager to strike at humanity, were beginning to question whether their military might could stand up to an enemy with access to such potent, unknown power. While the Council debated in confusion and fear, Commander Drake remained steadfast in her commitment to peace. The humans had never intended to inherit the technology they wielded. They were merely explorers, stumbling upon something much older than they could have ever imagined. She knew that the galaxy was watching them, waiting for any sign of aggression. And yet, she believed humanity could forge a different path, one that would avoid the mistakes of the ancient race and build a future based on cooperation rather than conquest. In private, however, Commander Drake and her advisors knew the galaxy's hesitation could not be ignored. They had offered peace, but their message had been met with suspicion. The discovery of the ancient transmission only served to fuel the growing paranoia. Time was running out. If the galaxy did not come to terms with humanity soon, the choice might no longer be in their hands. In a quiet but monumental decision, the human leadership called for a meeting with the Galactic Council, requesting a final summit to resolve the situation once and for all. Commander Drake was determined to present humanity's case one last time, to show the galaxy that they could rise above the ancient mistakes and build something new, something better. As the summit convened, leaders from every corner of the galaxy gathered. Tensions ran high, with each species bringing its own fears and hopes to the table. The humans stood before the council, their warships silent but looming in the background. Commander Drake, resolute and calm, spoke to the assembly, her voice carrying a weight that no one could ignore. "We are not the inheritors of a curse," she began. "We are the inheritors of a choice to learn from the past, to build a future that does not repeat its mistakes. We offer you not just peace, but partnership. We ask for your trust, not because we are perfect, but because we are willing to learn and grow alongside you." Her words hung in the air, as the council members sat in silence, each contemplating the gravity of what was being asked of them. Could they trust humanity? Could they trust a species with the power to change the fate of the galaxy? The decision, more than ever, would define the future of the galaxy and humanity's place within it. The final summit was unlike any other the galaxy had ever witnessed. The tension in the room was palpable as leaders from all corners of the galaxy gathered to make a decision that would determine the course of history. The humans, represented by Commander Evelyn Drake, stood before them with unwavering resolve, but even they could sense the weight of the moment. The council members, each with their own fears and ambitions, looked at humanity not just as a powerful new force, but as a potential turning point for the entire galaxy. Commander Drake's words had resonated with many, but there were still those who couldn't shake the doubts lingering in their minds. The Tukri, ever wary of threats, had yet to fully embrace the idea of peace with humanity. Their fleets, already on high alert, were ready for action at a moment's notice. The Vesh, whose initial belief in peaceful coexistence had been shaken by the discovery of humanity's inherited power, were now caught between their desire for diplomacy and the fear of what the humans could become. The Jari, ever neutral, had seen the warning hidden in the ancient transmission, but they remained hesitant, torn between caution and the possibility of a new beginning. Despite these divisions, there was a shift in the air. The galaxy had reached a critical juncture, and the human delegation had made it clear that the time for hesitation was over. They would not wait forever for the galaxy to make up its mind. The invitation for peace remained, but it would not be extended indefinitely. Commander Drake, with the full weight of her people behind her, knew that humanity could not be bound by the fears of the past. They had already shown their strength, their restraint, and their willingness to offer cooperation. Now the galaxy had to choose: continue down the path of distrust, or embrace a future shaped by unity and mutual respect. The council began to deliberate, voices rising in heated debate. The fear of the unknown still gripped many, but there were those who saw beyond the power of humanity's warships and the legacy they had inherited. The Jari, after much internal discussion, spoke up. Their leader, Calvar, who had long advocated for patience, addressed the council with a quiet yet firm voice. "We cannot ignore the past," Calvar began, "but we also cannot allow it to define our future. Humanity stands at a crossroads, much like the race whose downfall they have inherited. But unlike that lost civilization, they have the choice to build something different. They have shown us that it is possible to rise above the mistakes of the past." His words struck a chord with many in the room. The galaxy had spent so much time fearing the power humanity wielded, but perhaps it was time to stop viewing them as a threat and start seeing them as potential allies. The Tukri, despite their initial skepticism, found themselves reassessing their position. They had underestimated humanity's willingness to learn and grow, and perhaps they realized they too could learn from the humans' example. Slowly, the tone of the meeting began to shift. More voices, once filled with fear and suspicion, now spoke of collaboration and hope. It was not an easy decision, but as the summit drew to a close, a historic agreement was reached. Humanity would be given the chance to prove their commitment to peace, and the galaxy would extend an olive branch, offering cooperation and partnership. Commander Drake, standing before the council, knew that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and doubts. But for the first time, the galaxy was willing to walk that path with humanity. The weight of the past would always be there, but together, they would shape the future. As the delegates left the chamber, a new era dawned. The warships that had once symbolized fear now stood as a symbol of hope. Humanity had not only survived their introduction to the galaxy, they had earned a place in it.